He turned to his men. They went toward the fords of the Jordan. Go, pursue them. The soldiers turned and ran off into the night. I watched them go, then slowly, quietly, closed the door and slid the bar back into place. My knees felt weak. I leaned against the door, my body trembling. I had lied, I had risked everything. And it had worked. I took a deep breath, the air tasting of freedom and terrifying commitment. The first test was over, but the biggest negotiation was yet to come. When the sound of the soldiers was completely gone, I went back to the roof. The city was quiet now. The two spies were just starting to emerge from under the flax. The immediate crisis was over, but a new tension hung between us. We were now bound together by this secret. I didn't waste any time. I stood before them, a woman who had just committed treason for them, and I laid my heart bare. This was my chance to turn my disparate act into a deal for salvation. I know that the Lord your God has given you this land, I repeated, my voice filled with a conviction that surprised even myself. I told them again of the fear that had eaten Jericho from the inside out, of the stories of the Red Sea and the defeated kings. Then I made my great confession, the core of all my secret hopes. For the Lord your God, He is God in heaven above and on earth below. That was a radical thing for a Canaanite woman to say on a rooftop in a pagan city. I was renouncing the gods of my people and declaring my allegiance to the unseen God of my enemies. The spies looked at me, their expressions changing from relief to astonishment. They came looking for intelligence. They found faith in the last place they expected. Now was the time to make my plea. My voice trembled slightly, but it was firm. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house and give me a sure sign. I looked at them, my gaze both pleading and demanding. I had taken a huge risk. Faith was one thing, but I needed a promise. I needed something real to hold on to. Swear to me that you will spare the life of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and everyone who belongs to them, and deliver our lives from death. My family, they were all I had. They were in the city, totally unaware that their lives now rested on this negotiation happening on my roof. I was a stain on their honor in many ways, but I loved them fiercely. If I was going to be saved, I wasn't going to be saved alone. The men exchanged a look. They saw the sincerity in my eyes and understood the debt they now owed me. One of them spoke. Our life for yours, he vowed. If you do not tell this business of ours, then when the Lord has given us the land, we will deal kindly and truly with you. It was a solemn oath, but they had conditions. This oath will only hold if you do exactly what we say, the other spy explained. When we come into the land, you must do two things. First, gather your entire family into this house. Your father, your mother, your brothers, all of them. Anyone inside this house with you will be safe. Their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. But anyone who goes out into the streets of the city, their blood will be on their own head. I nodded, my mind racing. I had to get them all to come, to trust me. It wouldn't be easy. Second, he continued, his eyes fixed on me, you must give us a sign. He reached into his pack and pulled out a rope. It was a deep, vibrant scarlet. Tie this scarlet cord in the window you let us down from. It will be the marker. When our army sees this cord, they will know to pass over this house and everyone inside it. A scarlet cord. A simple, dyed rope. But in that moment, it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It was the sure sign I had asked for. It was a tangible promise, a beacon of hope in a world about to be destroyed. It was the seal on our deal. Agreed, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. I took the cord from his hand. The bargain was struck. My lie had bought their safety. Their oath had bought my family's salvation. All that was left was to trust the promise and the God who had orchestrated this whole impossible night. The deal was done. Now they had to get out. The city gates were locked until dawn, and the king's soldiers would be watching them. My home, however, offered another way out. Its position on the wall, which had once been a symbol of my shame, was now their key to freedom. I led them to the window, the same one I'd used to watch their army approach. I took a sturdy rope, not the scarlet one, but a common one, and tied it securely. One by one they climbed out, their feet finding holds on the rough stones of the city wall. They lowered themselves into the darkness outside Jericho. Before they vanished, I leaned out and gave them one last piece of advice, my survival instincts now working for their cause. Go to the hills, I whispered forcefully. Hide there for 3 days. By then, the soldiers looking for you will have given up and returned, then you can go on your way. They nodded their thanks from the shadows and were gone. I pulled the rope back in, my hands trembling. I stood there for a moment in the silence of my room, which just minutes ago had been filled with so much tension. I was alone again, but everything was different. My eyes fell on the scarlet cord. It lay coiled on the table, a slash of vibrant color in the dim room. It was more than a rope. It was my anchor, my claim check for salvation. The spies had told me to tie it in the window when they invaded, but my faith needed to act now. I couldn't wait. With determined hands, I went back to the window. I untied the escape rope and carefully, reverently tied the scarlet cord in its place. I let it hang down against the outer wall, a vivid red line against the weathered stone. As I secured the knot, I felt the weight of the moment. This simple act felt sacred. The color of blood reminded me of stories I'd heard of another people long ago, who marked their doors with the blood of a lamb. That night an angel of death passed through Egypt, but it passed over every house marked by that blood. No, here I was, a Canaanite woman, doing something similar. This scarlet cord was my mark of protection, my plea for the coming judgment to pass over my house. It was a symbol of redemption, that a life stained by sin could be made new. That cord, hanging from a prostitute's window, declared that my past didn't have to be my future. It was a symbol of our covenant. It was the first step in my journey from being Rahab the harlot of Jericho to becoming someone else. Looking at that cord, I felt a peace that made no sense. The city around me was doomed. Chaos was coming. But in my house, marked by this thin red line, there was a promise of safety. I had done everything I could. I had acted on my faith. Now, all that was left to do was wait, gather my family, and trust that the God of Israel would see the sign and remember his promise. Those 3 days passed with agonizing slowness. I went about my routines with a mask of normalcy on my face, buying bread, drawing water, enduring the suspicious looks from my neighbors. The only thing anyone talked about was the spies' escape. The king was furious. Guards at the gates were doubled. A sense of impending doom hung over the city like a shroud. My first and hardest job was convincing my family. I went to my father's house and gathered them all, my parents, my brothers, my sisters. They were practical people, and explaining what I'd done was not easy. "You did what?" my father asked, his face a mask of shock and horror. "You harbored the enemy. Rahab, this is madness. You've put us all in danger." I told them everything, about the spies, my confession of faith, the oath they swore to me. "Their God is the true God," I pleaded, my voice cracking. "He has given them this city. Our walls won't save us. Our gods won't save us. Our only hope is to be in my house when the army comes." They looked at me like I had lost my mind. "We trust their lives to a promise from enemy spies. Take refuge in the home of their disgraced daughter," a home marked by a weird red rope. It was unthinkable. My brother scoffed. My mother wept. But then my father, who had been quiet, looked at me. He saw the conviction in my eyes. Maybe he also saw the same terror gripping the city and realized their normal hopes were useless. "She is our daughter," he said quietly. "What other hope do we have? We will do as she says." Reluctantly, they agreed. On the day the Israelite army finally appeared on the plains, my family gathered in my small home. We were cramped and afraid, a tiny island of hope in a city of despair. From the window, we watched the army approach. It was a terrifying sight. But then, they did the strangest thing. They didn't attack. Led by priests carrying a golden box, the Ark of the Covenant. I later learned that the entire army marched in complete silence around the city one time, and then went back to their camp. Jericho was baffled. The next day they did it again, and the day after that. For 6 days, the routine was the same. A silent march, once around the city, then a retreat. Inside my house, the tension was unbearable. "What are they doing?" my brother asked for the 10th time. "It is what their God commanded," I said, my own faith being tested each day. I spent hours at the window, my eyes fixed on that scarlet cord. It seemed so fragile against the massive stone wall. People in the street noticed it. They pointed, some laughed. "Look at the harlot's house," they mocked. Their scorn hurt, but I held on to the promise. My faith, born of rumors and solidified by action, now had to survive the trial of waiting. It was a quiet, stubborn trust in the face of ridicule and uncertainty. 6 days of silent marching. 6 days of holding my breath and clinging to the hope of a single scarlet thread. This wasn't a game. This was a divine countdown. On the morning of the 7th day, the air felt different. The Israelite army began to march, but this time, they didn't stop after one lap.